the computer. Okay. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm Yolanda Makumbe, and I'm here today with Shamelle Yimafia.
Close. Shamelle Yamofio.
Okay, Yamofia. There we go. We're going to come to you today to talk about some financial traumas and her experience with financial traumas and how she has worked through those things. So, Shamelle, can you come and tell us a little bit about what circumstances led to you experiencing financial trauma?
Yes, well, Yolanda, thank you so much for having me. When I was thinking about this, the first time I really realized it, I think, or when it really hit me where I broke down was when I was in college and I was somewhere standing near one of the academic buildings and I just started crying because I had gotten sent to collections. My name had gotten sent to collections because I had had a credit card my freshman year and I got behind on the payments and I just couldn't pay them anymore. And I just said, okay, well, I'll pay it when I get to it. But yeah, I was so broke. It was not even funny. I probably had
Mhm.
$5 to my name. So I needed that. But I think that's where the hustle has come in. I've always kind of been a hustler. My mom taught me that. Even we used to make keychains. I forget the name of the string that you would call it, but we would sell the keychains for $1 each. Sometimes that was a difference in gas money that my mom might have had growing up. So that was my first experience with financial trauma, and then further on down the road, I think I've just kind of learned to live with lack, if you will,
Mhm.
and learn to hustle. But I realize there's stress that comes with hustle, and so I think that when I realized that other families, white families mostly, or well-to-do families, parents normally give to their children uh, not loans, money for college, helping to pay, or a down payment on a home. And I kind of realized some of the things that I was not getting. So that kind of was a little traumatic because I'm realizing my goals that I have for my kids, and I'm wondering what kind of barriers would prevent me from the generational wealth based upon what I didn't get.
Oh my gosh. So you mentioned so many different things in there that, you said that you had kind of become accustomed to lack. And that in itself is trauma because, we have college degrees. Like, you would think that having gone to get this education that they told us we needed to get, and then, going to a school, because, we went to UNC Chapel Hill, and you think, okay, that's setting me up for a different type of lifestyle. And then to have to, in your mind, a little bit settle because that next step looks different. And you really, I think the lack of knowledge of knowing how to get to that next step has not been passed down. So we are pretty much, like the barriers that we face a lot, where
Hmm.
it comes from is that lack of knowledge. And so, what feelings did you have when you realized that you were a victim of financial trauma?
Well, you put words to it last week when we first talked, and I felt relieved in a way that there was a word as diagnosis put to my trauma. I felt um oh my goodness, there's so many emotions. I actually got emotional. I actually cried because I'm like,
Mhm.
yes, this is what I've been experiencing. And it makes me feel tension, if you will, because I think that I'm kind of pointing the finger like, oh, well, thinking about my parents and or grandparents or what happened or what did not happen. And so it creates me like tension in my mind about why am I in this situation when other people could have made decisions in which I may not have been in this situation. But it also makes me eager and determined for my own children to not make some of the same mistakes that my family did. They did what they thought was best,
Mhm.
but like you said, people, it's the lack of knowledge that people have, and then just the different family dynamics. They may have known, but they may not have wanted to for whatever familial reasons that may have been.
Wow. So in all of thinking about your whole life and thinking about your experience being a child and then of course a young adult and now adult with your own family, have you been able to take advantage of any type of safety net programs to help mitigate the situation that you were in? So, any type of food stamps or housing vouchers or affordable health care or any types of things that would have eased the burden of financial stress for at any point in your life.
Mhm. Yes. So, it comes with doing research. When we were looking at homes, just looking at different opportunities for first-time homeowners, we took a class with a first-time homeowners class in Charlotte when we bought our first home. That was helpful. And then when we were looking into our second home, we looked into a program called NACA. We
Mhm.
almost we didn't do that program for a particular reason. I kind of forgot, but we're looking into doing it for the next time we buy our home, and they help you with your down payment assistance. So there is money out there, there is help. It's just about doing that research. And then also having a good financial planner and or tax preparer. We do have one. We're looking into other options, wink wink. But I think that that would be also really helpful, is utilizing those resources. Sometimes you have to put a little money down in order to save money and or gain more money, and it is an investment. We realize that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think for a lot of us, we find ourselves in situations where we just kind of, we get to a point where we plateau, especially when we have that house, we have the cars, we have the stable job, we plateau with our knowledge and we kind of get comfortable. But it is important to invest in making sure that you are expanding the impact that you can leave, not just for today, but for the future, planning for retirement, planning for your children's education. And those things are so important, especially when you have gotten to a point where you might be quote unquote financially stable, but some of those other things can be introduced to you, or you can come up with different strategies to expand that impact. So definitely that I'm glad that y'all are, utilizing your resources. And I'm definitely excited that you guys took advantage of the down payment assistance that was in your area in Charlotte and looking into NACA. Those are two really good opportunities to become homeowners. And talking about home ownership, um, one of the biggest barriers to becoming a homeowner in this day and time is having high student loan balances. That's disproportionately affecting Black families. And so, they have to use a certain percentage because everybody is under forbearance in the COVID CARES Act. And so, have you seen how student loans has been a barrier in your life or either in the lives of people that you might know?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So thank you. Great segue. I just came across this article in the Washington Post
Mhm.
that really spoke to my experiences personally and or other people who I know. So y'all, if you have a moment, look up this article. The title of it is "College Isn't the Solution for the Racial Wealth Gap. It's Part of the Problem."
Wow.
Again, college isn't the solution for the racial wealth gap. It's part of the problem. And I think it really comes down to also choosing colleges that'll give you a good amount of financial aid.
Mhm.
Sometimes, some students pick a college based off of different factors, but I think us in the Black community and students who need that financial aid, we should pick colleges kind of based off of the best financial aid package. Um, a few pointers from the article was saying um, research over a 24 period showed that white college graduates are far more likely to receive money from their parents. Black college graduates are far more likely to send money to their parents. And it also says Black debt rises over time, white debt diminishes. Um, and and I've seen just super high uh, loans in the Black community just because of a variety of factors. Either their parents didn't help them with the down payment, or they picked a college that didn't give them a good amount of financial aid. And so I know some people are drowning in loans
Yes.
and in debt. So, that also a lot of institutions and college prep programs are starting to veer away from focusing so much on college per se, but focusing on careers. Not
Mhm.
to say don't go to college, but it's like, okay, you could possibly get great career prep, not necessarily going to the most expensive college out there. Could be community college, could be trade, but just thinking about ways in which to reduce those loans.
I'm so glad you brought up that article because I'd actually been doing similar research and um, I saw that the article had been written last year. And in a year, nothing has changed. If anything, the pandemic has really negatively impacted so many families and worsened the racial wealth gap. So it it disheartens me a little bit because of the dire situation, but then it really makes me excited that they are actually reporting on this and keeping tabs on it so that maybe legislators or senators or, politicians can really start to utilize their political power to help people in their situation and help change these people's lives for the better. Going off to college, we absolutely desire to do better with our lives, but sometimes those student loan balances don't ever match that income that we're expecting.
Exactly.
So,
Tell me about it.
yeah, man, I'm so glad that you brought up that article, y'all. Make sure you go read that article because it really does talk about what dire situation that a lot of Black Americans are facing right now. And that might not be your situation, but I know that you probably know somebody who you can sympathize with or empathize with who may be in that situation. So also recognizing that the pandemic has really open up an opportunity for things such as people becoming investors and maybe closing that racial wealth gap. And that'll be talked about later on in a different session, but investing is definitely one way that people can help to close that racial wealth gap, because just working wages, it's really hard to just be to save and think that that's going to
Mhm.
make a huge difference. You have to have some other kind of catalyst to help to close that racial wealth gap.
Exactly. And speaking of investing, I wish I would have taken it more seriously when I was younger, whether it's investing in the stock market or investing in real estate.
Mhm.
Um, but I know there are some podcasts for the urban community or just in general. I know Dave Ramsey, he's kind of for everybody. He said something that really struck me. He said it in on Instagram. He said, "Don't buy a new car until you have $1 million net worth." And so I think also just thinking about, I know, right? I was like, dang. But anyway, just knowing certain terms, like what is a net worth? Like I remember we
Mhm.
talked to a financial planner a few years ago, and he told us our net worth. I was like, oh gosh, like we were not homeowners at that particular time. We were in an apartment in that particular time. But I think in with millennials looking at social media, I
Mhm.
was trying to look up. It's two Black men who talk about investing. They have a podcast.
You
Um,
are referring to Earn Your Leisure.
Earn Your Leisure. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, us as millennials, they're people who look like us. I think they're from Brooklyn. One what used to be they're from New York. One used to be a teacher. He realizes that look, you can't exchange time for money. You're never going to be rich if you're trying to exchange time for money. Make sure you have your money working for you
Mhm.
when you're sleeping, as
Mhm.
people say. So yeah, we need to look at social media, eventually invest in someone who can help. But until then, do your research and due diligence. I think we just kind of have to focus our time on different things, like certain things I call the devil if you don't use it right. Like Instagram, you could be scrolling, looking at the shade room when you could have been scrolling, looking at how to invest or how to save. Just reframing how you're spending your time.
Absolutely, man. And there are so many free resources out there now, like so many free resources for you to at least get started. You don't have to be an expert. You don't even have to know the basics, but there's so many resources to get started. So yeah, absolutely. Follow those financial gurus. Like when I tell you there are so many, I follow so many of them, and everybody has their own spin. And so until you figure out what works for you, doing that research is really important so that you don't get left behind. we look, no child left behind here, okay?
There you go. Shoot,
We
I'm
don't
still a
want
babe.
anybody
I'm still a child. Don't
exactly.
leave me behind. There's so much that I still do not know. I would
Mhm.
love to learn and grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, who are some people that come to mind for you, like to, as far
Mhm.
as following folks?
So for females, I follow Clever Girl Finance,
What's it called again?
Clever Girl
Oh,
Finance.
Clever Girl Finance.
Mhm,
Okay.
yes, and she has a podcast. I follow, Girl CEO, and she also has a podcast. Tanya Rapley, she's on Instagram. Mark Monroe, and the Come Up Cousins, I follow them very heavily. They do weekly Tuesday and Thursday, live YouTube
Oh
videos.
wow.
Yes, and so they teach that now. If you want to really close the wealth gap, those are the Come Up Cousins is a really good opportunity for you to learn some really some pivotal things around investing and creating generational wealth. So those are some of the people that I follow to make sure that I'm keeping up with what's going on, that I'm keeping up my skill set so that I'm staying in the community of like-minded people. And when you're on this journey, you have to stay in a community with like-minded people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So, um, what would you have done differently, if anything, in this journey, in your financial journey? Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Oh, yes, of course. I think that I would have been more organized. I think in general I need to be a more organized person,
Mhm,
but organizing my budget, saving money and not touching it.
mhm,
Um like I had to dip into my retirement a little bit
mhm,
to put a down payment on a home.
mhm.
So I wish that I wouldn't have had to do that per se. Um, I should have been eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a while. Honestly,
Right,
because
right,
I,
right.
I have I have a friend who she paid off her student loans by eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I know that sounds super extreme,
But it's
but she was single. She did that for a while, and
yeah.
she's fully debt free. So I would say just being more organized and being more disciplined with my money, and also giving more too, giving more to tithes, giving more to nonprofit organizations. I know some people like try to hold on to stuff, but like really, what is the difference of $100 sometime going to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
make or break? It can't really make or break you being wealthy or poor
that's
with that
true.
amount of money.
And you're typically gonna find something to spend it on anyway.
Wasting your money. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and then maybe even shopping around, doing more research. I know sometimes people don't have time, but it's like, do you want to save time or save money?
Right.
Sometimes that's kind of a trade-off. But
Mm,
if I would have spent a little more time doing research or asking more questions before making a big purchase or something, I could have potentially saved more money.
absolutely. Thousands of dollars. Thousands.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let's put a number on it, thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so last question that I have for you is what advice would you give someone who may be experiencing or have experienced financial trauma?
Oh, that's good. So I would advise them to uh sit with their feelings and understand what happened, but don't think it's the end of the world. It's never too late to make small changes. It's never too late to kind of change your daily habits or your thoughts around what's going on. At the end of the day, it is easy to kind of blame someone, as I mentioned, but at the end of the day, you can only control you and your actions. So it doesn't matter if someone else affected you down the road. What can you do moving forward to help yourself and to help those coming after you?
Absolutely. I thank you so much for chatting with me today. You've dropped some major gems, and I know that I'm glad that this conversation is going on because so many people are experiencing, just like you said, that financial trauma that they don't even know that there's a word for it, and they've
Hmm.
gone through life just kind of experiencing these things, and to now have a term that's relatable to them, it's like a light bulb going off. Okay, now that I have an idea of what it is that I've been experiencing, I can really start to make changes and understand that there are some things that are absolutely positively my fault. But there are
Mhm.
also some barriers that have been presented to, frame me and put me down a path, but it's not too late. You can
Right.
always change that. You can always take a new path and take the opportunity to keep learning. So I appreciate you for your transparency today. I appreciate you for spending time talking to me. I hope that I can help you some way down the line and, making sure that the plans for the kids are good, your retirement is good, all those conversations, we'll be having at some point down the line. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, thank you too for this opportunity, Yolanda. Thank you for all this work you're doing. It's kingdom work. It's helping the masses. So y'all listen to her. She's good people. But thank you, Yolanda. Take
Thank
care.
you. You too.